The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 16, Championship Week. Rankings, debate, and maybe some waiver wires. We got all the injuries covered for you, at least what we know this early in the week. If you're looking for the rankings list, hit the description of this video or podcast, and you can find them then. They will update every single day all the way up before the Saturday games, before the Sunday games. I can't promise before the Sunday games, but definitely before the Saturday games. I mean, I don't know what kind of state I'm going to be in on Sunday morning this week, and we're getting pretty close to Christmas party time. But no, I will have all of that updated for you. This is the only ranking show we're going to do. There's no Friday show. There's no Sunday show this week. So hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at the PME if you got more questions. But before we jump into everything, a few housekeeping notes. One, no Week 17 show. If your week plays into Week 17, just fuck off and stop watching. You no need to ever watch my show. You kidding me? Week 17, give your head a shake. But seriously, smash the like button for the episode. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and tell me if Kerryon Johnson is active this week, which I'm not sure if he's going to be or not. Where would you rank him in the Week 16 PPR running back rankings? That's the draw for 20 DK bucks. The draw for 100 DraftKings dollars. And I suggest everyone go do this. I want to get to 3,000 iTunes reviews before the end of the year. We're at like 2,760 or something like that right now, especially if you live in one of these like not America countries. So Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Lithuania, PME, big in Lithuania. If you're especially in those countries, leave a 5-star review after you subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. DraftKings handle in that 5-star review and something you like about the show. You'll be in a draw for 100 DraftKings dollars. I'll put them on Twitter or something like that because I'm not doing a new show I'm not going to be filming a live show on Monday. There will be a new Pat Mayo Experience every single weekday throughout the rest of 2019, but some of them have already been filmed in advance because I will not be in studio. So just enjoy all that. Remember to like all the episodes, do all that fun stuff. The final thing, the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Listeners League. The link will be available after the live broadcast of this show in the description of the podcast and video. 2,500 spots, $15 to play, 3 max entry, no rake, the best tournament on DraftKings. Let's fill it up this week. Go out with a bang. And if you hate golf, I don't really understand that, but if you do, give the Pat Mayo Experience golf shows a try. I think you'll like them. Even if you don't like golf, I think you'll like those shows. So go check them out. Give it a chance because there's a lot of money to be won and more listeners' leagues to play in for no rake as the new season approaches. All right, enough of that. Jake Ciely from theathletic.com is on the line. What's going on, my man? You got the flu?
Yeah, fight through it. It's Sweet 16. I can play through it. It's gonna be like the Michael Jordan game.
The Michael Jordan ranks flu game? You're going to have the best rankings of all time?
The best of all time. I just got a tweet that says you and I helped this person do a championship this year. I was like, that can't be true.
Yeah, championship in like a low ball league, probably.
The lowest one possible.
Yeah.
I love your Week 17 one, by the way, because it's surprising how many people still playing it.
You're doing Week 17 rankings, right?
I'm doing ranking. I decided normally I had done waivers, rankings, my APA adjusted points allowed. I said, nope, just rankings this year. And it's just like the rankings, as soon as you get past like RB10, is going to be like, is he playing 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters? Is 1 quarter of Mark Ingram, your favorite player, better than 3 quarters of Gus Edwards? You'd obviously say no, but I combined the waivers this year. I said Week 16, I'll tell you who you can maybe look for in Week 17, but I'm like you. I'm the only thing you're getting is rankings.
Yeah, a lot of people ask why I didn't do a waiver wire show or a waiver wire article this week. And I was just like, I do the rankings on Tuesday before waivers pass anyway. So it'd just be like doubling down on the same thing, wouldn't it?
I'd say so. Sorry, I was in the middle of a drink of water. I got to keep that throat hydrated. It's a little bit sore. No, I'm with you. We kind of talked waivers the past 2 weeks when we're doing it. And now that it's the point where excuse me, I'm really struggling with my throat here. If you're looking to pick somebody up on waivers for Week 16, you've got to probably play them unless you're playing block the opponent. And then those people don't really matter for waivers anyway. So I understand why you saved it for this week, because we're going to be talking about it in the ranks anyway.
Yeah, so let's start off with running back rankings. The injury report that I have right now, I have Dalvin Cook as in because it sounds like he's going to play. So likely out, I have Bo Scarborough, Damian Williams, J.D. McKissick, Alexander Madison, Kerryon Johnson, and Jordan Howard. So let's begin talking about this Detroit situation for a second, only because there's a lot of pieces in play, and Wes, the Hills have eyes. Could end up being someone that you might end up starting in a championship game if Kerryon doesn't come back or Bo Scarborough doesn't come back. Like, is there a situation where you would play any of these guys? I guess is the first point.
No, not even Kerryon Johnson included. There's no way I'm touching him in his first game back with Patricia at the helm. This could be a T.Y. Hilton situation where he's just out there just to be out there and make the other team have to think about him. And it's against Denver. It's in Denver. I don't want to touch anything. There's no running back in this backfield with or without Kerryon Johnson that's going to touch my Week 16 fantasy roster unless you're in like an 18-team league. There is no chance. I mean, what'd you call him? The Hills have eyes? That's a pretty good one, but he's basically just Kalen Ballage reincarnated. I don't want anything to do with anybody in this backfield.
So let's live in a world where Kerryon Johnson is inactive, but Bo Scarborough is active. Would you play Bo Scarborough?
No, still no. I still don't want Bo Scarborough, even a banged up Scarborough. Scarborough doesn't catch. I mean, that's limits his upside. Again, it's the Broncos, so he's going to have to find his way into the end zone. With the way that the Lions look right now, would it really surprise you if they head to Denver and get skunked on the scoreboard? There's no way. I don't want to rest my Sweet 16 hopes on anybody in this backfield. And I don't really feel that great about Galladay. I think you would have to play him no matter what. But Galladay against Chris Harris and the Broncos, this is just going to be a very, again, I could see the Lions being off the scoreboard altogether. If anything, maybe a field goal or two.
Christian McCaffrey comes in at number 1 in the rankings, even with Will Grier starting at quarterback for the Panthers this week. Number 2, Chris Carson, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook with that questionable tag against Green Bay, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and Nick Chubb. Of course, Derrick Henry still has that hamstring problem. He's playing through it. I don't know if his snaps will be limited again this week, although it is a bit of a tougher matchup against New Orleans. But out of those 10 guys, obviously I hate Mark Ingram, but Fantasy Pros has decided to rank him there at Cleveland. Who would scare you the most? Would it be Derrick Henry because of the matchup plus injury?
I think that's the thing, is he keeps going back to the sideline and touching his leg and missing some plays. And then when he breaks off late in the game, he doesn't have that same burst, which is what makes Derrick Henry so dangerous, especially in the second half. There's a lot of uncertainty there. I've been telling, like, at this point, you don't need handcuffs unless you're doing Week 17. But in Week 16, forget handcuffs at this point, except Deion Lewis. Like, I don't think it's going to happen because he looks fine and he's been doing it for the past 2 weeks. But would it be a shock if, like, all of a sudden Derrick Henry Thursday rolls around and it's like, oh, he really's kind of hurting his leg this week, so it's going to be Deion Lewis. So that's the only reason I would hold on to him. I think that he's the one that I'm most scared about. Although I'm on the opposite side. I actually don't think Dalvin Cook plays. I think he's going to be out.
Okay, so let's live in that world where Dalvin Cook. Okay, let's live in one world where Dalvin Cook is active. Percentage chance you give him to get through this game.
Through the game?
Yeah.
I think if he's active, I would say 90% he gets through the game, because I don't think the Vikings are going to risk him unless that's the case. But I think that 90% doesn't come with the Dalvin Cook who touches the ball 20, 25 times.
Okay, so if he's active, do you think that 4th is still too high for him? Like, can you envision a scenario where you have Dalvin Cook on your team, you know that he's active against the Packers, and you don't play him? Because I don't live in that world.
I don't think I live in that world either. The only would be the case of you don't play him in cash and DraftKings. So if you're playing the Monday night game and you don't put him in your, although that actually might be the way to do it, is play him in your captain spot on the tournament side of things. But in a seasonal, if Dalvin Cook's active, you have to put him in your lineup because you don't want to see him on your bench and get even 90 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 14 touches.
So the biggest risk happens because it's a Monday night game that you're not going to have, and an overflow of options to replace him should he be out. Does this depend on your situation with Dalvin Cook? If we don't know what his status is by Sunday, again, I do think that he's going to play. Early reports from Mike Zimmer suggest that he's going to play, but Madison missed last week. There's no word yet on whether he's going to be back. But let's say you didn't have Madison, you only had Mike Boone, and we weren't sure about the status of Madison either. Would you still risk it and try to hold him?
So if you have Boone and Cook, or just only Boone?
So, okay, let's say you only have Cook and someone else has the other 2. Would you
Okay.
would you still risk it if you didn't know?
No, not without a backup plan. The only other one I could see is maybe if you go pick up Jamal Williams in that game. But so I was on Chris Harris's waiver show earlier today, and I said, I don't love it, but I'd roll out Adrian Peterson against the Giants. I would roll out Patrick Laird against the Bengals. Like, those are some options that are kind of in that conversation where, look, if you don't have either of those two and there's no Jamal Williams, you can't wait and then have Dalvin Cook just sit. And I would even go as far to bring up Madison and Mike Boone. Let's say we find out Friday Dalvin Cook's out, but Madison might play. So now Madison might play. It might not be 100%. So they might split the backfield 50-50. I'd still go to Adrian Peterson. I would still go to Patrick Laird. So that's really what it's come down to, unless you're headed into those games. And does either one of those at 4? No, those are both 1 o'clock games. But, maybe you go into this and say, you know what? I need to risk the highest ceiling with Madison, understanding my floor might be a 3. I don't need the safe Adrian Peterson. I don't need the safe Patrick Laird.
Give me a snap or touch split between Boone and Madison if they're both active and Dalvin Cook is not.
See, I think it would probably be 60-40 for Madison, only because, 3-4 weeks ago, I'd probably say it's like 80-20, and he gets the Dalvin Cook treatment, that being Madison. But with this, you mentioned the injury, and he said last Wednesday, he was like, oh, I'm going to be fine for this game. Doesn't practice Thursday, doesn't practice Friday. He's out. Nobody still has a real word on what kind of ankle injury it was. If it's a high ankle sprain, it's just very mysterious. I don't know why they are allowed to not tell us more information, because this is supposed to be the whole NFL rule, is you're supposed to disclose these things. But in any case, that being said, with this Monday night situation, I think it's probably 60-40. My biggest concern of that 60-40, and even push it, let's even move it to 70-30 and say Madison gets 70%. My biggest concern is that Boone gets the inside the 10 carries, and that's where I'm a little bit tentative of either one of them.
So realistically, if they were both available on your waiver wire, pick them both up if you have Dalvin Cook. They should not be available on your waiver wire, but it does seem like Boone is the better pickup than Madison, all things being equal with the information that we have right now.
At least as of today, it does. But yes, I would definitely try to pick up both of them.
Now,
we might get a practice report on Friday that Madison's getting all the touches.
This could be true. Now, if Cook and Madison are both, if Cook is a game time decision, Madison has been declared inactive, Boone would clearly be the handcuff. But if you did want to wait it out, I suppose you could pick up CJ Ham or Amir Abdullah if you really wanted to wait. And then you get into a situation where it's Boone and probably Abdullah in like a 70-30 split. It's not optimal by any means, but it does give you some bit of leeway, maybe like 5-6 touches. Maybe he can scamper into the end zone. That would be the best case scenario. But if you wanted to wait for Dalvin Cook, those would be your options.
Right. Well, and actually the best case scenario, and not good for Dalvin Cook or Alexander Madison as people or the people that own them, but the best situation for us as fantasy wise, if Dalvin Cook and Madison are both ruled out as of Friday, and then it's Mike Boone who would be in the RB2 conversation.
RB2, potentially even RB1. Like if we knew Madison and Cook were both out with Mike Boone, would you play Mike Boone or James Conner?
I would still go James Conner. He, like, early in that game, I tweeted about it as a joke. He was getting 57, almost 60% of the carries and was touching over 45% of the touches, period, were going to him. The problem was the offense was just doing nothing. So I think that you come out of that game saying, all right, the Steelers feel like he's okay. And with the Steelers' treatment of James Conner and what is always the treatment of James Conner when he's healthy, he is clearly the bell cow absorbing the majority of the touches. So I would still go James Conner. But to your point, I think you could have the conversation.
Would you play Devin Singletary against the Patriots, or would you play Mike Boone?
In this scenario where we know that Cook and Madison are both out, I would actually go Boone.
I would go Boone as well. So the entire rankings from 11 to 20, I have Kamara at 11. Maybe someday he'll score a touchdown. That'd be nice. Eckler at 12, Josh Jacobs at 13, Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Kareem Hunt, Marlon Mack, and the aforementioned Devin Singletary. Anyone you feel should be up or down? Like if you have Kamara, chances are you're not in the finals. But if you are, you're still rolling him out there.
You certainly still are. I think that's a fair ranking for everybody in there. At this point, even with the injury situation, I think you feel better about Jacobs than you do at Kamara at this point.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would feel still better with Kamara.
See, I don't. I'm legitimately looking at the fact that he scored touchdowns in one game. And I say touchdowns because that was the one rushing and one receiving that he had. What was it, week 3? at some point, I know touchdown regression is on his side, but it's not on the side that people think it is because his touches still haven't been enormous. It's not like he's out there touching the ball 20, 25 times a game. So you would think that in this offense, in this situation, and Kamara should score, but the way the use has been, especially in Jacobs, when he came back and played last week, similar to James Conner, they gave him all the touches. Not all of them, they're still sprinkling, but the majority lead, a bell cow, borderline kind of conversation here. Chargers don't scare me. They scare me against the pass, but if you're going to beat them against the run and you're going to lean on Josh Jacobs, and Austin Eckler, I argue you can even both of them. You can even know that they've both been better than Kamara at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at Kamara's points per game, it's still inside the top 12, and he's not scoring touchdowns. Like, I still want a guy whose floor is there with the potential upside to break just one. Just break one, Elvin, and get into the end zone. And then all of a sudden, he's a top 5 guy again. Like, Jacobs, he's scoring more points than Jacobs per game, despite the fact that Jacobs is actually scoring touchdowns.
Well, you got to remember, too, early in the season, Jacobs wasn't getting the bell cow treatment.
I mean, he has been since, like, week 3.
I think it's a little bit after that. I only know because Brad Ziegler on podcast. He's a Chiefs fan. He hates the Raiders. He hates anything to do. He kept telling me Josh Jacobs was going to stink this year.
No, that's a real bad take.
I love him, but he hates the Raiders. He's a homer.
21 through 30. I have Kenyon Drake at number 21, Raheem Mostert, Colonel Mostert at 22, Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, Melvin Gordon, Adrian Peterson, Phillip Lindsay, Duke Johnson, James White, and David Montgomery. Flea market. Then that goes into like Carlos Hyde, Jamal Williams, Royce Freeman, Boston Scott, Wes Hills, if everyone, you check the rankings to see who's in, see who's out, and all this stuff. Myles Gaskin, I actually have overlayered this week. Tariq Cohen, Latavius Murray, Mike Boone, Matt Breida, Spencer Ware. He's the highest of the Chiefs guys. I mean, if you're down in this range, you're not looking good in your fantasy finals. But if you had to take like a potential upside shot, it'd probably be. Thank you for talking me into Boston Scott, by the way. I ended up using him on DraftKings. Turned out great.
Nice. Yeah, he's Darren Sproles, man. I told you.
But it would be Gaskin overlayered for me this week if I had to pluck one of them. Yeah, 48% each. In terms of the snap share last week, and that was with Miami trailing most of the game. Like, Laird can't do anything on the ground. And maybe Gaskin can't either, but it does appear like, I think, and even based on a bit of coach speak that from Flores, that it does seem like they're going to give him a shot. And this is a perfect matchup.
It would seem to be, and if you're going by draft capital, it wasn't a big difference because Gaskin was, I think, just like sixth rounder, and Laird was undrafted free agent, but that kind of tells you a little bit right there.
Yeah, and just the way that his snaps leaped forward last week in a position where you would think they would actually go the other way because we've all kind of conceded that Patrick Laird's the better pass-catching back, but Gaskin just found himself on the field, and if you get a shot against the Bengals, and you kind of have to take it.
Yeah, you do. And I like I said, I don't hate it. I thought it was interesting. I think that to your point, the fact that Laird he should be a passing game only option for teams, NFL teams. And I think that if you're looking at maybe he does get a shot, that being Gaskin, see what they have for next year.
Anything else about running backs that you think we should hit on in Week 16?
No, Marlon Mack scares me.
Marlon Mack scares me too. However, coming off of injury, he got the Saints and he got the Bucks. Like, those are 2 of the 5 hardest teams to run on in football. This is a much easier scenario for him.
Well, it's the best scenario. Everybody scores against the Panthers.
He gets the best matchup of the week, and he's back at home. He should be closer to full health. If Ty is still gimped up and he's only going to play like 50% of the snaps, or he's only 80%, I can just see them leaning on Marlon Mack here in this spot. It seems like a better smash spot for him than it did each of the previous 2 weeks where he was basically a sit.
No, it is certainly, and part of what scares me about Marlon Mack isn't even so much him as much as it is that Jacoby Brissett's all of a sudden turned to a pumpkin, and that offense is miserable. And I would assume we haven't done your rankings. I'll see if you have them out, but I would assume that the Colts just cash it in with T.Y. Hilton now that they're out of the playoffs.
I originally had thought that as well. I guess we'll switch to wide receivers here. I actually have T.Y. as in, only because they kept him out there in that Monday night game. Like, when it was well out of hand, like, this seems like a good spot to sit down injured T.Y. Nope, let's put him on the field. But if they're going to do that, why not just play him this week too?
Yeah, I still lean towards why even put him out there if you're talking about for next year. But I wasn't even thinking it to your point. Yeah, why was he even out there in the fourth quarter? So I don't know. Maybe we can surprise people with 3.5 late scores or whatever, how far behind they were. But It wouldn't shock me if he's out this week.
So, I think that he's going to end up playing. We'll see. I mean, again, people, you don't have to set your lineups right now. The rankings will update every single day. If he is declared out, I will readjust the rankings. But I currently have T.Y. Hilton is in. DJ Chark is in. He looks like he could return. Juju Smith-Schuster and Hunter Renfrow is reportedly going to return this week for the Raiders. Likely out. Chris Godwin. Scotty Miller's just been placed on injured reserve as the show is live, and that news just broke. I have Adam Humphries is out. Trey Quinn, Paul Richardson, the Sledgehammer, Taylor Gabriel. Mike Evans is going to be out, obviously. Nelson Aguilar and Demarius Thomas. Josh Gordon is suspended, so he will not be playing. Number 1 in the wide receiver rankings. I'm going to give you a tier of guys here that are absolute must-plays. Then we'll get into the rest. Michael Thomas is number 1. DeAndre Hopkins is number 2. Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Parker, Keenan Allen. Those 7 guys, I think, are absolute must-starts. The rest, you can kind of debate all you want.
Would you call them most starts?
Oh yeah, they're Raheems. They're sideshow
They're all
Raheems.
I think that's certainly, yeah. I see that they're all must starts. I probably would even go further down your ranks for absolutely must starts. I can't see how you get to week 16 and you get to some of these guys in your teens and you're not like to kind of your point before about Dalvin Cook. Now, granted, Dalvin Cook's a top 5 running back, but what argument are you making to bench some of these guys?
I'm not. I mean, they're clearly at the top of the rankings, but like if you wanted to play, like if you were all gung-ho for like, I have DJ Moore way down in the rankings this week with the Will Grier situation, not like sit territory, but well behind the spot. Like I've had him ranked inside the top 10 for probably about 10 weeks now. Like I don't have that sort of confidence in him, but if you wanted to say, hey, I'd rather play DJ Moore than Cortland Sutton, I'm not going to kill you over that. Like I get it.
No, that one makes sense. I guess I'm kind of looking at 2 specifically and just not, I don't see how at this point, AJ Brown or Robert Woods touches your bench. I think, and I even brought up my concern to David Blau before, and I don't see, how deep are you at wide receiver if you're benching Kenny Golladay?
No, I mean, once you look at the rankings, if they're inside the top 20, they're must starts for me, but I think those 7 guys are on a clear tier above everyone else.
And that's fair. That's certainly fair. Yeah, if you're going to say they're on their own like special tier, then that's fine.
Yeah, because you can start poking holes into everyone, like against Allen Robinson, for example. Like, it's not the greatest situation in the world for him, but he's been so good that you probably just kind of end up rolling him out against Kansas City. They've been really good against wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, I mean, I love Cortland Sutton, but he seems like he's going to be relatively inconsistent with Drew Lock. Tyler Boyd, I have ranked super highly at number 10 against Miami because it's a great matchup, but he's still Tyler Boyd, who has like one good game every 4 weeks. And then that goes into Golladay and Diggs and Brown and Woods, like not super great matchups for any of those guys. So, but you're still going to play them. Like, you see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I certainly see what you're getting at. I saw what you were getting at from step 1. Do we have any word, by the way, speaking of Robert Woods, do we have any word yet on like whether Richard Sherman's returning?
Not as of yet. Preliminary reports from a week ago suggested that he could be back for this game. So it's a wait and see situation, really.
Oh, wait. Will you update your ranks?
I might. I may update my rankings as the week goes along. Who knows?
I don't even answer those questions if it makes you feel good. When it comes to the comments of my rankings, they're like, where would you put blank if blank plays? And like, I'm not going to answer. You'll see. It'll update. It'll update.
But I think it's important to have these discussions now to give yourself a game plan going into the weekend. Like, who are the proper pickups? What are the moves that I can make to set myself up properly? Should X happen? And then, if X happens and Y happens, what do I do then? So I think that's more of the conversation we need to have today. So the entire 11 through 20, as I mentioned, Golladay, Diggs, Brown, Woods, High T, Terry McLaurin came through in a big way last week. Want me some gish on the
Is that like the
DraftKings?
6th nickname you've given him?
Yeah, well, I'm big on it. Well, he became so boomer bust with Dwayne Haskins is that you have to have high testosterone if you want to play high T. That, I mean, you
So
can't be.
he's been hanging out with Frank Thomas.
Yeah, like you can't be like some soy boy or beta male if you want to play Terry McLaurin. That's not how it works.
What are those commercials? The Nugenics. Yeah, the Nugenics commercials with Frank Thomas. Do you know do you get those up there? Or do you not know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You haven't seen those with Frank Thomas in the gym? He's like, I lost all my energy and testosterone while I was working out. The Nugenics commercials, you haven't seen these?
Whenever you say it, it sounds like you're saying eugenics, and that just sounds like, anything like that sounds like eugenics or is eugenics, probably don't call your company that.
Nugenics. Still very close.
Yeah, not great. Not a great look. So McLaurin, Lockett. I have Anthony Miller ranked inside the top 20. It's just been a revelation for anyone who continues to play him. Emmanuel Sanders, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk. But with Anthony Miller, if Taylor Gabriel returns, I would have to significantly bump him down, right?
Oh, you're changing your rankings on me. Oh, God. Look, I actually think Anthony Miller, for me, would be just a little bit lower in general. Mostly it comes down to Mitch Trubisky against the Chiefs. You mentioned that the Chiefs' pass defense has been better than people realize because they're so bad against the run. They put up points, and then the other team puts up points, and it ends up being the snowball effect, and people don't realize, as I said, pass defense has been pretty good. So I know Anthony Miller is just getting volume of targets. I mean, and that's why he's so appealing, but I would still have him probably, I'd say 5 or 6 spots lower, and not a big difference, but I just a little less confident even before we start talking Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah, I'm not going to, if Gabriel's out, I have no problem playing Anthony Miller. I will play Anthony Miller. He's been a top 10 receiver over the past 6 weeks. Just the one good thing about this Bears offense since Trubisky has reclaimed his throne and like actually not look terrible is that it's almost like the old Oakland offense where it was Derek Carr, Michael Crabtree, and Amari Cooper. And those were just the 2 guys who shared basically like 75% of the market share. That's what's happening in Chicago right now. It's just those 2 guys, and then you'll get some Cohen out of the backfield. That's it.
Yeah. Look, hey, you're not wrong. I'm just looking at your list, and just for matchups too, and the quarterback who I trust, like I feel better about Kirk and Chark and that Jarvis Landry, Mike Williams too. He deserves to be in that conversation, though. So, again, that's why I'm not going to nitpick that you would put him a little bit higher than I would. The biggest thing about facing Oakland is that it's Oakland, Houston, the Giants. There's a couple. They're all inside the top 5 for big plays and big plays turning into touchdowns. I think Mike Williams keeps that track going this week at home against the Raiders. Quote, unquote, at home.
Yeah, well, I got Chark on the fast track inside at Atlanta at 21, presuming he returns. Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry, Mike Williams, Brashad Perriman, wide receiver 1 in Tampa against that awful Houston secondary. DJ Moore, Jamison Crowder, Will Fuller at Tampa, T.Y. Hilton. That's where I tentatively put him in at number 29, and I have Juju Smith-Schuster as playing, so I put him number 30 against the Jets. I think this is one of these weeks where we talk about the big play guys, whether it be Perriman or Robbie Anderson or Will Fuller, that if they have a slightly positive matchup, this is the week to play them. They might get, unless you're a giant favorite in your matchup and you just need floor guys, if you're an underdog in your finals at all, these are the types of guys to play. You roll these guys out this week.
No, 100%. And that kind of goes back to that conversation we were having about the running backs. You know, if you're just going to go for it, and we do get the news on Madison and Dalvin Cook, just go for the upside and the positive potential of Mike Boone. And so, you know, the difference is obviously Laird, Pat Peterson, these safe plays that you're talking about, wide receiver. You know, what are they going to really do for you, as you said? But I will talk about if you're evaluating, like you said, if you're a favorite or you're strong, evaluate it on your own. Don't look at the projections for all these sites that the projections get spit out. Don't look at your opponents. Let's just evaluate your team and say, is my team a dominant team from top to bottom? Then, you know, evaluate by there and pick your plays there. And please, I think I told you this before, Pat, please don't start people on it. I had a question 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago back. There was the game that Mike Evans actually got hurt, which he still had a great game. He was still a top 15 wide receiver even before getting hurt. So he's like, hey, I'm facing Dak Prescott. Should I bench Mike Evans for Randall Cobb?
Oh, God. That's a horrible idea.
I know, but people think these things because they're inexperienced and they think that they're hedging their bets by playing who their opponent has. I just went on this whole thing this morning about Twitter, and people were talking about Mark Andrews versus Darren Waller, and that, well, he has Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson does great, how does Mark Andrews not do great? Well, Lamar Jackson throws to everybody else except for him, or runs the touchdowns in and doesn't even throw a touchdown. Like, one doesn't have to come with the other.
What % chance do you give Michael Gallup of outscoring Amari Cooper this week? Because I think it's like 55-45.
Oh, I was going to say it's like 50-50 every week at this point since a couple weeks ago.
Just Cooper outdoors. I know the Eagles either get completely torched or they look great on defense, so it's really difficult to figure out. But especially coming off the bad week, if I had Amari Cooper, I'd be super nervous.
I would be too. It also comes down to, as you mentioned, you talk about outdoors on the road. Dak Prescott's home versus road splits are everything that people used to be afraid of for Drew Brees a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, the better comparison is probably Ben Roethlisberger.
The Berg. Him and his big fat beard. Big fat Ben with his big fat beard.
He looks so sad and lonely on the sidelines now.
Well, is that why he ate someone else just so he could have some company?
I didn't think he looked that fat
He was pretty fat. That's why he grew that giant beard.
to cover it up.
Well, he wasn't.
Well,
Put it this way: he wasn't a slim man to begin with.
No, he wasn't. Is that what Fitzpatrick is hiding this entire time? Fitzpatrick's actually got like this huge double like Jabba the Hutt chin or something.
Potentially.
It'd be a smart move.
Yeah, that's the move. That's when you see the people with the big bushy beards, like you knew them when they were skinny, and then all of a sudden, like you haven't seen them in 2 years, they come back with a giant beard. Yeah, they gained like 50 pounds.
So at least I got that working for me, as I could just start growing this out if I ever let myself go.
There you go. I mean, I don't grow beards very well. My facial hair is very patchy, despite being an old, and half of it comes in white now. So, like, you're going to notice.
Stay so fit.
Yeah, I have to stay fit, or you're going to see it right away. It's going to be bad news. So, Juju, if he plays, you play him ish.
No, I don't think you have to
at all.
Point.
Like,
No, I would say he's in the conversation. The way that you phrased it made me my thinking saying like he's an automatic start. I don't think he is an automatic start anymore. I don't think he was an automatic start before he got hurt with the way things were going with his team.
It's a nice matchup against the Jets.
It is, but what if Juju's out there? And I'm not saying that he should be, but what if he's out there like T.Y. Hilton and he's out there he doesn't even need to be a quote unquote decoy because essentially this season he's been a decoy. But what if he's out there at less than 100% to pull some defensive attention, which there's not a lot for the Jets, but this just opens the door even wider for James Washington or Deontay Johnson.
So 31-40, and this is where it gets tricky. I got Thielen at 31, Edelman at 32, sorry. Gallup, John Brown, DK Metcalf, Debo, Cole Beasley, Darius Slayton, Odell, Robbie Anderson is the next 10. I don't know what to do with Edelman, man. Like, he's banged up, he looks gimped up, and now he's just entering the den of pain against the Bills defense. He should be the guy that could figure it out. Like, he's the perfect type of receiver to just pile up catches against the Bills, but if he's not 100%, like, it's not going to work.
No, it's not. And I'll apologize to the person who asked me last week. They said, "Are you concerned about Julian Edelman?" And I said, absolutely not. He's been playing through this for weeks and 2 straight games. It was 20 points. And I was like, why would you be concerned? Well, there you go. Like, hey, again, I'm sorry, but all the reports told us he had been playing through the same injury. And I go back to those 2 games. He had 20 points in those 2 games, back-to-back weeks. And then it was a letdown. And as you mentioned, he looked banged up, but he kind of looked banged up in those games too. So I'm with you though. Now this week, if coming off that game we just saw, which was a much more favorable matchup, and now he's got the Bills, and it's Saturday, so it's a short-ish week. I would hope that you have an option that makes you feel. But put it this way: you rank them higher, you start Brashard Perriman over him, which is just crazy that you're doing it in the championship game.
Well, sometimes you got to make the gutsy decisions. Like, a lot of people asked me about A.J. Brown versus, like, legit guys last week, and I went with all the legit guys, and I was absolutely wrong about it. But I did say it to people like, listen, if you have conviction about A.J. Brown, play him. Like, go nuts.
So
the guy's been getting you there. If you want to start him over Kenny Golladay, go for it. And if you did, you probably won. If you had listened to me, you probably lost.
I had A.J. Brown on my home league team, which was great to see, especially because Godwin left. Although Godwin had a solid game before he even got hurt. Let me ask you this as a strategy situation, because I get this question a lot too. I'm just curious your outlook on it. So somebody who has Edelman, he plays, let's call it a Thursday night game. You play him with the finding out that the outcome might make another decision for you. So he has a bad game, and now your tiebreak situation is like, well, I'll play a Perriman over a safe play. Whereas if Edelman comes out of that game with a solid performance, then you're like, well, I'll go safe.
Yeah, I think that your matchup should be fluid. This is no different than on DraftKings, that if you are behind the pack in the afternoon slate going into the later set of games, that and the only people that you have left, are projected to be highly owned, even if you think the players you're putting in are worse, you have to do it because you can't catch up. Like, if you just have floor guys there and you know that everyone else has those guys, you need to go in a different direction to shoot for some more upside if you want any potential to come back. That's how you use the late swap. And in season long, like the Perrimans, the Will Fullers, the Robbie Anderson type, like deep play guys versus, I don't know, like the Jamison Crowder types. You still could be absolutely wrong. Like, we saw Jamison Crowder hit his ceiling last week, but normally he's a guy you think like, 6 for 66 with a bit of upside, where Will Fuller is like 5 for 245 and 3 touchdowns or 0. Like, pick your poison. If you're trailing in your game after making a bad decision, there's no more compounding bad decisions. It's already the bad decision. You're already in the hole. take a swing for the fences. You got to be like that guy from Major League 3 when he was playing for the Buzz.
I'm just gonna go tell Andercuss that you just called Jamison Crowder the devil.
He's not the devil. That's
You
marking.
said 6 for 66. Yeah, I think that was an undercut devil cut down. Call
Jake,
him Satan.
Jake, there's no such thing as the devil, so we don't need to worry about that.
The robot devil, though.
The robot devil is definitely true. So if you can get his hands, then you're looking good.
Oh, yeah. You'd be 100% on your rankings every single week.
But back to the conversation that we had earlier about the guys, like when I said those 7 guys, like if you told me you played Julian Edelman over Tyler Boyd this week, who I have ranked number 10, so 10 versus number 31, again, I understand people doing that. I wouldn't do it, but again, like as I've mentioned, I'm wrong frequently. But like I think there's a large group of guys after those like core 7 that any order you can kind of tell me what ended up being right.
Right. Oh, I mean, I'm looking right now, and you could say you played Julian Edelman over Kenny Galladay against Chris Harris and the Broncos. You played him over Christian Kirk. You played him over Tyler Lockett against Patrick Peterson. I see your point.
So, yeah, it all depends on the amount of risk that you want to inherit this week. Go with your gut. And listen, I'm not filling out your lineup. Jake's not filling out your lineup. The decision comes down to you. And we're not. Well, Jake is far more accurate than me. I'm a bit of a knob. But, like, just kind of figure it out. So, the guys that you could potentially play, let's say TY sits. Could you play Zach Pascal?
Yeah, I think you can. I think the biggest concern there is, are we talking versus Julian Edelman? Is that what you're asking?
No, just in general. Like after those guys, like I have Justin Watson, Hollywood Brown, Curtis Samuel, Amendola, Sterling Shepard.
Curtis Samuel. What is this? Curtis Samuel Ganji? Is that what you're going for there?
He's just Curtis Samuel.
All right. I think that Pascal is certainly playable. Right, look, the problem with Pascal is to a lesser degree of what the Juju Smith-Schuster situation is. And it's the example I keep giving from years ago, which just only because it's a perfect example, but we've seen it with Pascal earlier this year. We've seen it with Juju Smith-Schuster even before he got hurt, and even before Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. When wide receivers who don't have number 1 NFL ability, not just like number ones. Like Tyler Boyd is in this conversation too. Guys that struggled when you start getting that number 1 defensive attention could get easily shut down. So it's really going to come down to, does Carolina feel, is Bradbury, I think is still okay this week, but is he out there and on Pascal is kind of treating him as a shutdown, because then he can get away from him. But they double cover him the entire game. Then we could go back to Marcus Johnson surprising people. So I don't think that Pascal is anything more than, look, understand your floor is a 0 here, because it was a 0 pretty much. What was it, like half that game? He was barely involved until late into that game.
Yeah. Amendola, you could probably play. That's more of like, let's say you jump out to a big lead at some point and you're between, I don't know, like Deebo Samuel and Danny Amendola.
Well, Deebo's Saturday.
Oh, that's true. So you wouldn't have that decision. Michael Gallup or even John Brown. That's also Saturday. Fuck. Darius Slayton then. So Darius Slayton, big playability versus the floor of Danny Amendola, even against the Broncos. But we saw the way that he was utilized last week with David Blau in the short underneath routes. Just you would expect a lot of targets, a lot of volume, but not a high percentage of long plays or touchdown upside, but probably good enough to get you like 12, 13 points kind of thing. Then you start making your decisions the other way. Oh, I have this big lead. Let's protect this lead and put in a guy who has a pretty safe floor.
100%. Yes.
So other guys I was looking at, like Greg Ward, I think he's viable if Nelson Aguilar ends up sitting again.
I feel if Nelson Aguilar's out, I feel better about Greg Ward than I do Zach Pascal, but just because it comes down to the quarterback play.
I mean, it's not like Wentz has been any good.
Yeah, he has. He's been actually really good for who he's playing with.
I guess so. I mean, his fantasy numbers are better than his real life performance.
Yeah, but the fantasy numbers come from the yards and the touchdowns. I mean, it doesn't have to be real. We are talking fantasy. If we were talking real life, Jameis Winston wouldn't even be in the conversation when we get to quarterbacks. But Carson Wentz, for what he's been doing right now and what he's been dealing with at wide receiver, I mean, essentially his number 1 wide receiver, quote unquote, is Zach Ertz. Number 2 still might even be Dallas Goedert. He made Josh Perkins a thing 2 weeks ago. He's been throwing to no. Greg Ward was in the AAF this past year. So we're talking about nothing here. I would play Greg Ward as the number 1 for the Eagles before I play Zach Pascal with the way that Jacoby Brissett hasn't looked good in like 3 weeks.
I wouldn't chase the Kenny Stills 2 touchdowns, but if DJ Chark ends up sitting, I'd probably move Chris Conley inside the top 35.
Yeah, I would, to your point, I would chase Chris Conley before I would there. And to be honest, after watching that game, where do you have Didi? Because I would put Keelan Cole over Didi if DJ Chark is out.
I didn't. I have Didi at like 47 or something like that. He's not very high. Probably don't start Didi this week.
Or Keelan if you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean Keelan, that's just more of like a DraftKings like $3,000 upside play than anything else. And even he would still have to score a touchdown for that to come through. What's your take on Jake Kumaro here? It does look like he is now the one guy who does something. Like he played
one. He's Neo.
Yeah. So behind Devontae Adams, the rest of these jabronis on the Packers are absolutely awful.
This is terrific.
But Minnesota's defense, at least pass defense, is horrific. That someone's going to do something. I think he would be my pick to do it.
So I'm looking at, and to bring up this whole conversation, you're saying where you're sitting, and you're looking at, well, I feel as Anthony Miller, I would still start Anthony Miller over Jake Kumaro. But if you start getting into the 4:00 games and you're saying like Larry Fitzgerald, Sammy Watkins, even, probably Greg Ward kind of feels like a safer play at this point. Like if you're kind of like in that kind of conversation and you just need a potential 25-point game, I think that's where Kumaro comes into the conversation. I still don't trust, as much as he's been there, I just don't trust that it's all of a sudden, well, Lazard's back in the conversation, or Geronimo Allison somehow caught a touchdown and took it away, or freaking Mercedes Lewis took one away from Jimmy or Graham, who took one away from it. It's the Packers. So I think your point is valid 100%, especially because this secondary has been abysmal. But I think that's the play you're looking at here, is where it's, all right, I just need to swing for the fence this late.
Snap breakdown for the Packers from last week against the Bears. Devontae Adams played 93% of the snaps. It was actually Alan Lazard with 78%, Geronimo 54%, Kumaro 19%, Marquez Valdez-Scantling 12%. So you probably don't want to go to any of these guys, to be perfectly honest with you.
No, but it's kind of that conversation where we talk about other players. Like when he's on the field, he's getting the touches. When he's on the field, he's getting the looks. It's just, again, that's the problem. This is what you just mentioned. Similar to, you want to go talk about the Bengals, John Ross, boom or bust definition. However, the problem is Alex Erickson's still getting like 80, 90% of the snaps, and he's hovering around 45. So it's kind of like, well, it's just the fact that how many times is he going to have a chance to even boom when he's not on the field that much?
Let's move to quarterbacks. I have Will Grier as starting for the Carolina Panthers this week, and I have Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford, and Kyle Allen all as out and not playing, or not starting at least. Lamar Jackson, big shocker, number 1 in the rankings. Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Jameis, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes. The Fitzmagic at number 7 in one of his 38 revenge games this year against the Bengals. Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers is the top 10. Then I have Ryan Tannehill just outside of that, still a quarterback 1, but at number 11. Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Drew Lock, Andy Dalton, Phillip Rivers, Derek Carr, Mitch Trubisky, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Gardner Minshew. This works out very poorly for me because I need to go find someone to pick up for Josh Allen this week. Not to say that Josh Allen's going to have like a bad game, but the upside against the Patriots just isn't there.
No, it's not. And it's actually a really poor streaming quarterback week, too. I think Fitzpatrick is the best. And
he's basically I'm probably going to have to end up starting Trubisky or Jimmy G over Josh Allen in one of my finals.
I'd probably go Jimmy Garoppolo there.
I prefer the rushing upside that comes along with Trubisky, and against the Rams, maybe should be Garoppolo because it's hard to run on the Rams. Maybe you can throw all over them, but they have such a proclivity to run the ball inside the 5-yard line and actually score doing it that I think the upside rests with Mitch Trubisky here. One
counterpoint. That's what we said about the game against the Saints, and look what happened in that one.
That's true, but I don't think that the Rams offense is going to just move the ball like the Saints offense did.
Hey, you never know. I'm just saying, like, if you're looking for a 4-touchdown game, I would say Garoppolo before I said Trubisky. Although Trubisky, what is he? Yeah, he has one this year, doesn't he?
What? Rushing touchdown?
A 4-touchdown game?
I think he does. I mean, he scored a rushing touchdown last week, I think.
Yeah. I'll check. I'll find out while we're talking about it. Trubisky, let's see. Does he have a 4-touchdown game? Yes, he has the 4-touchdown game against the Cowboys. 1 rushing, 4 passing, but he has 4 3-passing touchdown games.
Interesting. So is there any of those quarterbacks like you would seriously put into consideration for legit streaming options? And guys, like, would you play Brady or Allen this week?
I would go Allen over Tom Brady, but
I have
wouldn't
Allen. I have Allen over Tom Brady, but like
I wouldn't want to. I would even go guard. You do have him higher. I would go Gardner Minshew over Allen at this point. And what we've been campaigning for Josh Allen. I mean, even you before I even got started is Josh Allen for life. And I don't know how you feel good about in New England on Saturday. Ugh.
Listen, he got me as far as I think he's going to take me here. And I think the Bills actually win that game, but if they win it, it's going to be like 13-10 or something.
It is, but you know what? I'm not quite as low as you are because I don't think I feel great about that pass defense with Derek Carr and how he just looked in the last game. And like Andy Dalton, I know it's the Dolphins, but what I would actually have Josh. I'm the defender here. I would put Josh Allen higher.
Can't do it. I've made this conviction. I've been looking at potential streaming options for weeks. Like if I make the finals and I have Josh Allen on, it's him or Jameis. I basically have on every single team. I wish I had Jameis at this point.
I actually have Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick because I was just planning a couple weeks back just in case Jameis Winston just went to crap, and I think I still got to keep playing him.
Well, do you worry that the dam has now broken with Jameis, that he's just lost too many guys? Because I actually don't.
I don't, because he's not going to stop throwing, and it's the Houston Texans defense. If I go down with Jameis Winston at this point, look, I'll go down with Jameis Winston. He's number 2 or number 3 on the year, depending on which site you play for, even with all those turnovers. He's coming off back-to-back 404. And so what? I don't think he's going to go 404 against the Texans, but 303 almost seems like his floor at this point.
And like the Texans have one of the worst secondaries in football. So let's not, and they score points, which is always good.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And Jameis, to his credit, like I think Jameis gets the whole fantasy thing. I really do. That's why he throws those pick sixes early in the game. He lets the other team score. Yeah, he drafted himself. He's like, I need to let the other team score, so I never stop throwing this entire game. Plus, they can't run the ball. Like they should honestly pass 100% of the time.
No, it's funny that you say that too, is because you're watching that game last week and you're like, oh crap, they're going to get up too early and then forget about Jameis. Nope. He's going to, as you just mentioned, I got to get him back in this game. Let me throw a couple picks, especially on our side of the field.
Let's go to tight ends. Greg Olsen has cleared concussion protocol, so he shall return with Will Greer as his quarterback. Likely out, I have Luke Wilson, Ryan Griffin, Evan Ingram, Vance McDonald, Rhett Ellison, and Gerald Everett. Obviously, a few of those guys could play. So again, check the updated rankings throughout the week once news breaks. But I got Kelsey at 1, Ertz at 3, Kittle at 2. See how I did that? I reversed it. And Jacob Hollister at 4. Fuck it, let's go.
He's actually a relevant tight end who has been productive going against the Cardinals. You got to have to at this point. Although, yeah, I can't see much of an argument for people behind him. Maybe Hunter Henry, I guess, because he's going against the Raiders. But Hunter Henry's gone quiet of late for some reason.
If Everett sits, even in the bad matchup, Higbee is he's getting like 12 targets a game. Like, you got to play him. You
do. I agree with you. This is similar to earlier with Gerald Everett was seeing that kind of work with Higbee kind of banged up and not being used very much. So I'm with you on that one. But I got to tell you, it's the best news I saw last night, Pat. Is somebody was like, oh, the first half was killing me. I was facing Jared Cook, and he got within 1 point of beating me, and then he didn't do anything in the second half. And I was like, yes, it's a Festivus miracle of Jared Cook doing exactly what Jared Cook should do, disappearing when you need him the most.
Well, I mean, it's not his fault. He probably, instead of tying his laces together, he accidentally tied the laces from 2 separate shoes together, and then he was just stuck on the sidelines.
Couldn't get him back apart.
Yeah,
had no idea where to go.
He had to quit football for a half. He's just like, I can't figure this out. This is ridiculous. And they wouldn't let him play without shoes. So there we go. Waller, I have down at 9 because I expect Renfrow to return. If Renfrow is declared inactive for this game, I'd move Darren Waller up to 4th.
I think that's a very valid point to make because Darren Waller's use up until Renfrow became a thing. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, what happened to Waller? And then as soon as he got hurt, it was, hey, we might need to treat Waller as a number 1 option, that being Derek Carr. So I'm with you 100%. It's very much dependent on Hunter Renfrow.
So I don't feel great about Andrews, Henry, or Hooper, but this is tight end. You're probably not going to feel too great about anyone. Doyle at number 9. Fantasy Pros has ranked Jared Cook at number 10. I, of course, would not play Jared Cook. But Mike Gesicki, Greg Olsen, O.J. Howard, Jason Witten, Caden Smith, Jonnu Smith, Darren Fells, Noah Fant, and Dallas Goedert. I was thinking about moving Cameron Brate up somewhere close to this just because of the dearth of options with Tampa Bay. Where would you rank Cameron Brate, do you think?
I think he deserves to be right around Dallas Goedert. So I think that's a fair spot. Although out of this group, I think you have Noah Fant too low.
Really?
Yeah. Against the Lions at home. I don't know. Well, for the Lions period. I guess the Lions period. Yeah.
Okay, would you play Fells or would you play Brait?
Ooh, I would just risk Brait.
Okay, would you play Jonnu Smith or Brait?
I'm a Jonnu Mark, so that's not. I'm not a good person to ask about that.
All right,
I'd play Jonnu.
Would you play Noah Fant or Jonnu?
I'd play Noah Fant.
Would you play Caden Smith or Jonnu?
Jonnu.
Witten or Fant? Sorry.
Fant.
Howard or Fant?
Ooh, that's a toss up. I'll let you make that call.
I would play Howard. So I'll move Noah Fant.
Because here's the thing.
I will move Noah Fant to number 15 in the rankings.
Here's everybody's making this argument of Bruce Arians. Oh, he's going to be forced to use OJ Howard.
No. He's going to throw to Hyman.
Yeah. Call me Ishmael. Yeah, exactly. Can I get that one? Is that a good nickname?
I like that you went with his first name, not his last name.
Yeah. So there you go. Call me Ishmael. There you go. Straight from the book. You know what that's from, right? You're a literature person, aren't you?
No, I can't read, but I believe that's from Moby Dick, when your dick's all sad.
Yeah, that's right.
Larry, you got a Moby Dick. Leon's the best. Curb's coming back in January.
Just that whole segment of no, I can't read. That's from Moby Dick.
I do appreciate. See, that's the sign of a good nickname, because everyone, 99% of my people, myself included, when searching for a nickname, would just gravitate towards his last name. But you swerved and went towards his first name. That's you're getting better at this.
It only took 16 weeks.
Yeah, it's taken like 6 years, but sure. You had one before this.
Yeah, Snoo.
Yeah, it's Snoo, and now you have Call Me Ishmael.
There you go. I've got 2 on the board.
Any other
6 years?
Any other potential sleeper tight ends that you can consider rolling out, or do I have the ones you'd think of?
I'm looking at. Let me pull up my waiver column real quick, because I think you mentioned all of them at this point that you could potentially even care about. Yeah, let's see. I have, as we get to it, Fells, Njoku, you mentioned. Oh, Njoku, but is Njoku even playing? What the hell is going on with him? Is he coming back or not?
I actually have no idea. Like, he wasn't benched last week or inactive because of injury. It was a coach's decision. And then I think it was just to allow Ricky Seals-Jones to have his revenge game.
Yeah, we had to have that. Yeah, I have Hollister, Fant, Gesicki, Howard, Jonnu, Fells, Njoku, question mark, Graham, Witten, and Knox. I wouldn't even want to touch Knox.
All right. Well, let's turn to defenses for Week 16. You can have your locked-in defense or a streamer, hardly newer. So, number 1, Pittsburgh. Number 2, Baltimore. Number 3, New England. Then the Niners, Texans, Bills, Chiefs, Saints, Broncos, Colts. After that, I have the Giants, the Falcons, Seahawks, Redskins, Cowboys, Bengals, Jets, Bucks, Dolphins, and Bears. That is my top 20 for defenses this week. Make the case up, make the case down, or you can say, Pat, you know your defenses. You're absolutely right.
That's the case most of the weeks. I think Denver is the only one of that list that's a streamer at this point. They're all, because I think they're highly owned. I think Denver's the best one. The only ones, I'm going to say ones because they're in the same game, I would swap the Redskins and the Giants.
You would
Eli Manning or Daniel Jones throwing interceptions. There's guaranteed turnovers. I know Haskins that initially did, but Haskins, I'm not even talking about his breakout game last week. Haskins has been so checked down and starting to become conservative that I don't even know the Giants get a turnover in this game. So I would do on the turnover potential alone. I'd rather have the Redskins versus the Giants.
Well, just thinking about it, it depends on who drops back to pass more. And I would expect that to be Eli over Haskins simply because Bill Callahan is very committed to running the ball.
Right. So you want the Redskins.
So that's one thing. However, every time that Haskins drops back, it's like 6 points waiting to happen. We saw it at the very end of the game.
It is. But also Eli Manning still had 3 interceptions in that last game.
The biggest thing for me is just looking at the pressure rates on everything. So if we just sort by...
Aren't they very close?
I thought maybe I have this wrong. I just assumed the Giants were way ahead of them, but maybe I am completely wrong on this.
That's what the Redskins
Oh, no, it is. It is Washington is better. You're right. You're absolutely right, Jake, using my own logic against me. You have won this round. I will put Washington one spot behind. I'll put them one spot ahead of Indianapolis. I know. I'll just put them where I have the Giants, and I'll move the Giants where I have Washington. So I'll put The Giants now at... No, I probably like the Cowboys better, too. I'll put them behind the Cowboys in between the Bengals now that I've thought about this more.
Okay, fair enough.
I like it. Thank you for the heads up on that. Good tip.
Hey, it's week 16. These things are bound to happen at this point, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I for whatever reason, in the back of my mind, when I looked at it, I don't know what I was looking at. Maybe I had sorted it incorrectly, but I had the Giants as way higher than they're actually listed. For reference, Washington right now is 5th in adjusted sack rate for the season, and that's been climbing every single week. The New York Giants are actually down to 21st, which has been dropping every single week. So you just hope that Barkley doesn't go mental in this game, and Eli actually has to drop back to pass, which, as I kind of pointed out earlier, I would expect Eli to pass more than Haskins.
So there you go. Look, a nickname and the defenses. It's a crazy episode.
You're having your moment in week 16, Jake. The accuracy of your picks wasn't good enough. You really won me over this week.
There you go. Of everything. This is a great way to close out the year, though, isn't it?
I think so.
Should I propose to you, too?
Maybe.
I've won you over.
Question, though. Is Will Grier better than Kyle Allen?
Oh, my God. Are you being facetious with the tweet that I put out earlier?
I didn't see the tweet you put out earlier. I'm actually legitimately asking because I have no idea.
Oh, no. So somebody said this is a downgrade for DJ Moore. And I said, no, Greer's the better quarterback. And somebody immediately, how do you know he's never played in the NFL and blah, blah, blah. It's, well, because Kyle Allen's not a good quarterback. Will Grier, I tweeted it out if anybody wants to go look. I did my entire draft profile breakdown of him. But basically, you look at him, and there's some Phil Rivers similarities. There's some upside there. Like, Will Grier could absolutely first game in the NFL fall flat on his face. Pure talent-wise, you're giving me one versus the other, and I don't even think it's close. Kyle Allen is who we've seen from Kyle Allen. There's a reason he wasn't a starting quarterback. Will Grier has got the job now because Kyle Allen's been so miserable. His time is now, but the downside is, like I said, I will admit, the downside is he comes out and looks like Dwayne Haskins, though he's got a better pedigree behind him. Will Grier, for people that don't remember, 2 years ago, so well, actually technically now almost 3 years, basically 2 years college ago, people were talking about him as the first quarterback off the board.
And his time is now. You just said that.
I did say his time is now. John Cena sucks.
John Cena was great in the Marine and 12 blocks.
Wait, which Marine? Isn't there like 17 Marines?
Yeah, well, the Miz is in the new ones. My guy, the Miz.
Oh, John Cena was the original Marine?
He was.
Did that stupid firefighter movie come out with him? That comedy that looks like it was made on Nickelodeon?
I have no idea.
Okay. He looks weird with long hair.
John Cena?
Not long hair, but longer hair. He looks weird without the buzz cut.
Yeah, he's more of a crew cut type of guy, but now he's not doing USO shows. He doesn't need the Army haircut anymore.
That's very true.
All right, Jake Ciely, you can find all of his rankings up at theathletic.com along with all of his content. But if you follow Jake on the Twitter box at AllInKid, you can find a lot of his quippy comments. Jake, what do you got coming out for the rest of the week, and what can we expect for week 17? Well, I'm off like drinking my face off.
So week 17, also D'Angelo Williams might argue, like in our opinion, he and it was our best episode yet this week. It comes out Wednesday mornings. We do have a Christmas episode for next week that we're going to be recording, so that'll be out as well. But as you mentioned, the Throwback Podcast and the Athletic All in Sports. I'm going to Joe Pisapia, friend of the show, over on that. Well, maybe a friend of my show, maybe not yours.
No,
but
my show as well.
So there you go. Week
Joe
17.
Pizza.
Week 17 is rankings. I gave you waivers in week 16. That's it. Rankings. It's stupid to begin with. That's all you're getting.
For me, you can expect a Week 16 spread pick show with Feinberg and Cust. You can also expect a Week 17 spreads pick show with myself and Cust. It won't be coming out normally on Wednesday because that is Christmas Day. We'll be recording it on Boxing Day and hope to get it out later on that afternoon. There will be no video for it. It'll just be audio in case you're wondering. But I have a bunch of new content all coming out over the course of the next 10 days or so. Please go check it out and subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience Audio Podcast. And fun fact, if you subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience Audio Podcast, then leave a 5-star review in your DraftKings handle and something that you like about the show, you'll be in a draw for, what's that? What? 100 DK bucks? You might want to give that a shot. And if you just want to be in a draw for 20 DK bucks, I mean, you can be a both if you want. Smash the like button for this video. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and tell me if Kerryon Johnson plays this week. Where would you put him in the Week 16 running back rankings? PPR, remember that. All my rankings in the description of this video and pod and up on dkplaybook.com. Good luck in championship week. I want to hear from you if you win your championship. I don't want to hear from you if you're a loser and you don't win. And then I can retweet it out, make it seem like everyone who listens to the show wins, which they don't, myself included. But anyway, hit me up with that. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck. I'll see you next time.